This open letter is for Steven Najat, Steven Nezhat, Dr. Steven Nezhat. I have a few more words with you, for you, Steven. A few more words. Because it really pissed me off that you think you actually sit at the moral, you stand at the moral place that you can actually, advise others what to do, what not to do, because you think of yourself being in a higher moral ground. That really pissed me off, because you and your family do not, in my view, the person who was not part of your family but was involved with your family for 3 years, and 1 year of which I was forced to spend in your household. For somebody like me, I can tell you that you don't hold the higher moral ground. Neither does your family, neither does your sisters, neither does especially doesn't your father or your mother. None of you motherfuckers hold the higher ground. So it really pisses me off that you actually think you have the right to, give advice on how people should behave. Let me give you an example, one of those examples that I forgot about to tell you last time. Many of these memories I have blocked. I've decided I don't want to think about them because I don't want to, punish myself on the daily basis. But for your sake, I had to remind myself. I have to go back over my memories to remember what the fuck happened to me in your household. One of the things I forgot to mention to you was in the previous videos, and this message is also, this open letter is also good information for my sister's kids too, so they understand. My sister's kid Khurshid, Shayda and Aryan, being the kids of my sister Vida, the whore Farokh Nejad. Khurshid Nadari Azad, Aryan Nadari Azad and Shayda Nadari Azad. They should know too that why am I pissed off of this family, this father who was anything but a father, and this sister who was basically a thievish whore, their mother. Here's the thing, Steven. The first year I was at your household, I was always hungry. That was the year that they hadn't sent me to the boarding school, to the military boarding school, where I more or less got beaten up every other day because I was the Iranian from a terrorist country, which the media didn't let up on stating how bad the people of this country are, how bad the Iranians are, and the hostages and the mullahs and the Khomeini and this and that, and everybody's bad from that country. That country is shit. So here is a representative of that country. Let's give him a bit of American power. Anyway, beside that 2 years that I was sent to the military school by your family, the first year in your household, I was always hungry. I was going to the regular school and I had to stay in your house, and they give me a room, Michael's room, a bed in Michael's room. I was always hungry. You know why? Because your mother kept the fridge empty the first year I was in your household. It wasn't all empty. There were like 2 eggs, like 3 eggs, half a stick of butter, maybe 2 muffins, and a few raisins, a pack of half-eaten pack of raisins, or maybe a couple of little stuff over there. But in the general view of your fridge, if we had cell phones at that time, I would have taken a picture and I would have sent it to you. It was empty. That was the year you were in Spain, being treated like the American prince with all your father's money. And Janet and Juliet were all in college, having a time of their life. And it was me, your mother, and your father at your house. And your mother kept the fridge empty. The reason was simple. She wasn't concerned about me. Me being a 13-year-old boy at the growing stage of his life, needs to eat, to grow. No, what she thought about is that she doesn't want to be tempted. She was always on a diet. She wanted to keep her figure, so she was always on a diet. So she didn't keep any fucking food around the house. No snacks, no nothing. And whatever there was, that in the morning, cereal and milk. That's it. For me, for your father, for herself didn't have breakfast, or anyway, basically the fridge was always empty. As you think a normal fridge, always having some meat and potatoes and snacks and cheese, and no, there was none of that there, because she didn't want to tempt herself to eat, because she was at home most of the time. Your father was at the office most of the time, so your father would leave the house at 7 in the morning and come back at 7 at night. And the only thing she had to prepare for him was some food that she usually pulled out of freezer, put it in the microwave, pop it in the microwave, and put it in front of your father, myself, and herself. That was the food. Our food came out of freezer. But in terms of fridge, having something to fridge to eat between meals for somebody like me, fuck him. And the dinner was basically a little piece of was a diet meal for your father, so he wouldn't have cholesterol, and his sugar and cholesterol would be in check, and herself also on a diet. So very dietary food of a piece of chicken or a meat or whatever, and a little vegetable, and that's it. Fuck you that you're in the growing stage of your life. We didn't want you. Fuck you. That was my answer. Never objected to anything, but was I happy? No. Fuck you. Who cares about my happiness? So your mother, and especially on top of all that, is that your mother is keeping these conditions, so I give up and say I don't want to live here, which I never did. Because one of the main reasons is because I wasn't treated any better at my household because of my sister, as you probably know by now. So, and I do remember this specifically, that how different it was, the refrigerator in your house, from the time before your sisters came for vacation. You weren't there the whole year, but your sisters came for the vacation once or twice, and every time your sisters were coming home for vacation, I would see the night before, literally the night before, suddenly the fridge was overflowing with food. She would go out, buy a whole bunch of food, everything, come stuff the fridge, and the next morning your sisters arrived, and I'm like, okay. So she knows that the youngsters, they like to eat, they need to eat. They're not all on the diet. They don't want to be on a 50-year-old's diet. But she cared for her own daughter, but she could care less for me. Fuck him. This is my fridge, nothing is in it. Go fuck yourself. That was my food situation, and the other, as I explained to you in the previous video, it was my social situation, in which every afternoon I had to go to that hall upstairs from 5-6 o'clock in the afternoon and stay there till 7-8 o'clock next day that I went to school. So I cannot stay downstairs and socialize with her or my uncle or you guys or your sisters. I cannot socialize with any fucking body because I'm the house nigger. Seriously, Steven? You actually think your family are in social standing or in moral standing that you can actually tell other people that what they should do, how they should behave? Seriously? I was hungry most of the time in your house because your mother kept the fridge empty. Food doesn't cost much in the United States. It wasn't, I guess it wasn't the money, it's just that she didn't want to be tempted herself to eat. Or she didn't want your father to be tempted to eat. Fuck this motherfucker who just dropped in our house uninvited. Which I wasn't uninvited. Your father volunteered. It's just he didn't think my father is a bigger asshole than he is, that my father is a bigger irresponsible than he is, that my father would not pay for my existence. And I would become a liability on his hands. This was your father's mistake. He didn't realize how big of an asshole my father is. Yeah, this father, my father, was a bigger asshole than your father. These two brothers, between these brothers, my father was a bigger asshole than your father. All those 3 years that I was at your house and your father was, every other month your father was asking for money from my father, and my father never sent a penny to him. You know, it wasn't that he didn't have money, he just didn't want to give money, spend money on his own son. This was my father. He had money. Our house was always in a large house in a good part of town. My sister had her own personal car, brand new, bought for her. My sister had everything she ever asked for, best of everything. She fucking, at age 18, she had a $5,000 camera, just a camera that she didn't need. She used maybe once a year. So she had a grand piano, not a grand piano, a wall piano, but still a piano, just for her. Nobody else can touch. So he had money, but he just decided he wants to spend it on this pussy, on her pussy, because he adored her pussy, and he still does at age 90. And he just thought his 13-year-old son should become independent at age 13 and go fuck himself. And this continues till today. He doesn't feel any responsibility in dividing our family's generated wealth evenly. He just doesn't feel that way. He doesn't feel responsible in doing it. He doesn't understand the meaning of being the person responsible for this number of people. He just doesn't understand. And you have ideas regarding this matter, you jump in uninvited and put your 2 cents in. Fuck you, Steven. My father has got his brain is backwards. He looks at his children, even his daughter. He looks at all his children as his possessions, as his investments, as I explained in the other video, as sort of like his cows. He's got a dairy farm and his children are his cows. And he determined whether he wants to invest in this cow and he doesn't want to invest in that cow because that cow is not giving him the kind of milk that he desires. and that cow is not, he doesn't care for, because I guess, I don't know, whatever, for whatever reason, he's got a dick instead of a pussy. So I was stuck in this fucking kind of family. The father doesn't feel responsible for every member of the family. He thinks he's the king and he has the option to pick and choose. I want to invest in this offspring, in this cow, and I don't want to invest in that offspring and that offspring, and my wife or anybody else, they all can go fuck themselves. I like this cow. That's how my father mentality worked. They don't, and it's not, I say my father, he was the worst of the worst, but in general, we, the brown people, are just a little better than black people. We don't understand, our IQ is not high enough to understand the meaning of what it is to be responsible for our family, for our community, for our city, for our nations. We don't care. We don't understand. Our IQ is not that high. We don't see responsibility. What we see is me. What can I get? How this serves me? How that serves me? The way he sees it, my father, is that what my sister served him in a way that he was able to, look good in front of his, sister and brother, and hear this and that. Early on, my sister got into architecture, and she helped him look good, keep up with the Joneses. Keeping up with the Joneses, my sister helped him to keep up with the Joneses, and say my daughter is also an architect too, Manuchehri Rampur, especially Manuchehri Rampur. It was important to him. His responsibility was not important. So if his young son at age 13 is on the other side of the world and is being treated like a house nigger because my father, he is not paying up for him, so he's being treated like a house nigger, he doesn't care for that, because the Joneses don't see that. Who the Joneses see is my sister Vida, and now Vida's children. Those are the people that's one of the reasons Vida has went to Vancouver. So that's where Manuchehri Rampur and some of his sisters, they all reside in that area, and their grandchildren, their children and grandchildren reside in that area of Canada and United States, in Washington State, and maybe some Northern California, some in Vancouver area, is because, again, my sister she thinks she's smart. Take my father, put it in front of his family, the Joneses, and tell him to, spend money on my sister's family, so my father would look good in front of the Joneses. You see, us brown people, we think short term. We think my benefit. Screw my family, screw my brothers, screw my sons, screw everybody else. It's about me. And right now, not only about me, it's about me and right now. No responsibility. We don't recognize responsibility. We don't recognize looking after other people, other members of our family beside ourselves. We don't recognize that. Even brown people, when they take care of their children, they're not taking care of their children because they feel it's their responsibility. Take care of their children because how their children will make them look. You see, again, whether they make them look good, you know what I mean? Whether their children will help raise their social status. If they help them, they feel, will my child help raise my social status? If they do, okay, I will help them. But if they don't help my social status, why should I help my children? Why should I, be responsible for my children? Why should I divide the family's wealth evenly between my children if some of them don't help to raise my status within the society or whatever? You see, we brown people are transactional. We're not responsible people. We are transactional people. Even in terms of a family, a father doesn't feel responsibility. A father feels, if this is a good transaction, if this money that I'm investing in this child, is it going to have a good return? Is it going to help me, hold my head a little higher? Is it going to, based on their own environmental parameters, hold my head a little higher, is basically, again, that's all relative. A century ago, hold my head a little higher in terms of social status would mean something else than now, than 500 years from now, than 100 years from now. But still, within their perspective, within their social standards, within their social values, they look at everything as an investment, and if this investment is going to benefit me somehow. They don't invest in their children. They don't take responsibility for their children because it's their responsibility. They make an investment. They look at it as an investment, as a transaction. I give you money, what you give me. I give you money, what you give me. Well, my sister has taken full advantage of this warped perspective that my father had regarding his family, and basically, on top of all that, she's got a pussy that he likes. He doesn't like dicks, he likes pussies, and they're in this transactional relationship that he gives him much, he gives her money, and she yields her pussy and goes and dances in front of the Iranpur family, in front of the Joneses, so my father would, think that his social status has improved. It's a fucking stupid, complicated, brown, worst of the worst brown family from the Middle East. So you just shut up, Steven. It's like the comment that you made. It's just showed that. I mean, you should not make a comment in a situation where you have very little clue. You should have known that by now. Only make comments where you know a lot, at least 70-80% of you have 80% of the information regarding a matter. Then you can make it, make your presence known. Make a comment. Else, just shut the fuck up.